It's been said that Instagram largely shaped the wristwatch landscape, the wristscape, if you like, that we enjoy today. By bringing in user-generated content focused mostly on images with its ideas of the hashtag and the like and the follow and the all of that stuff, moved people away from the very text-based discussion, argument kind of forums into something very different, opened the hobby up to a much more mainstream audience, and resulted in what we have today. Interestingly, Instagram is changing, and it's possible, if that first contention is true, that might actually end up changing the hobby again. We can talk about that later or another day, because I'm not really ready to talk about it now. But what I was curious about is, today in 2022, how are we using Instagram? How do we interact with each other? And what influence might it still be having? See you after the intro, and we'll get into your answers to my questions about how you use Instagram today. Hi, I'm Pete McConville. Welcome to my channel. Here, what do? I talk about watches, but I do it from a bit of a left field angle, looking at topics, thinking of ideas, looking at watches, hopefully, that not everyone else is looking at. Today, what I want to do is I've asked you some questions over on the community tab of my channel homepage about how you use Instagram. Do you use it at all? And if so, how? Now, I fully expect and I fully understand you, according to Google Analytics, are a little older than the normal audience. My viewers, following probably me, tend to skew a bit older. So I'm going to guess that that's had some influence on your ideas about using social media in general and Instagram in particular. How has that influence manifested? Do you use it more than average, less than average? I don't know, but we'll just put it out there and say whatever I'm going to talk about now may not be universally applicable. Okay, so first question, nice easy snowball. How many of you use Instagram? And divided it up into two very stark categories. Use it at all, even just to surf and look at other people's pictures, or don't use it at all. And surprisingly, we almost split 50-50 down the middle. 56% of you saying you use it, 44% of you saying you don't. I actually thought it would skew more. I thought there'd be more people that do use it than have reported. That could be an age thing. Where do I fit? I very definitely do use Instagram. It kind of goes with being a YouTube content creator. And the fact that I am a YouTube content creator will, and you'll see this as we go through, does change how I use Instagram. Second question was really about how do we use Instagram? And I broke that into two categories and gave the people that don't use Instagram somewhere to tick and put their box. So first off, about 40% of you continued to say you don't use Instagram. I think that's just a little bit less than the previous slide because people couldn't be bothered ticking it again. So again, say what that means is of the 6 out of 10 people that do report I use Instagram, 5 of those people look at a lot of other pictures, but don't post much, if at all. You browse, you lurk, you hunt, but you don't actually post. About 7% of people tend to emphasize posting and don't look at other people much. So that's about 1 out of the other 6 that are using Instagram. That makes sense and lines up with a lot of behaviors and things I've read elsewhere, that the number of people that scroll through Instagram is significantly larger than the number of people who actually post. So those numbers kind of stack up. Where do I fit? I'm in the mostly post, but don't look at others. And again, classic sort of content creator mode. Like a lot of us, you end up having a lot more followers than you actually follow. It's a content creation thing. If I was to go over onto my personal email, my personal Instagram, you'd see a completely different behavior. But yeah, as a YouTuber in the watch space, I definitely post way more than I look at your stuff. Okay, so the next question I wanted to get into was the like system, and more importantly, as sort of people who are in the watch hobby, what's sort of the thing that's most likely to trigger you into pressing that like button? Was it that there was a photo you really liked, regardless of whether you like the watch or regardless of whether the photographer was a stranger? Or were you more likely to focus to like a watch you like, even if the photo's a bit average and again, the photographer's a stranger? Or are you most likely to like a photo that was taken by a mate, even if the photo's a bit ropey and you don't particularly like the watch? What we saw was, I'll start at the smallest end, only 17%, only about 1 in 5 of you that are involved in Instagram will click on a photo and like it just because one of your mates did it. That was, again, a little surprising, kind of flies in the face of the social friends-based networking that we all thought Instagram was there to be, and probably says something about perhaps why Instagram is changing. Maybe, a lot of people are throwing rocks at Instagram about the way they're changing, but maybe it reflects the way we use it more than we care to admit. The other two split pretty much 50-50, very close to 50-50. 43% of you will mostly click on a really good photo. 39% of you will mostly click on a watch you love, even if the photo itself isn't that great. That's really I found that really interesting, the way that's split up. Where do I fit? I actively curate the watches I get shown. And I do everything I can to ensure I get shown the kinds of content I want to see. So I'm very definitely in that second camp of I will almost exclusively like images of watches I like. I don't really care how good the photo is. If it's of a watch I don't want to see anymore, I won't click on it because otherwise I'll just keep seeing those hashtags. Likewise, sorry to my friends out there, but if you're showing me a watch I don't want to see, I'm not likely to like your photo, no matter how good it is or how good a friend we are. Okay, so my next question, second last question, it was a very short series this time, was about how does posting on Instagram change our habits? And most importantly, does it influence the way we choose our watches? Do we ever wake up in the morning and go, oh, I've got to do a wrist shot today. I had this watch on yesterday. I'm going to change it today. The way this broke up, a huge chunk of you, 77%, almost 8 out of 10 said, no, that sounds insane. Now, I guess that probably more than half of those people don't use Instagram at all. I made a dreadful mistake in setting this up. I should have had another one for people that don't use Instagram. But I'm going to guess that probably we'll call it 40% of those people, or a little bit over half, a total of 40% of people just don't use Instagram, and that's why the idea sounds insane to them. So that would mean there's about 33% of you who do use Instagram, but still think that it's insane that someone would be influenced in the watch they were going to wear that day. Now, there's about 6% of you who go, no, it doesn't have any effect on me because I'm just going to change the watch for the wrist shot. There's about 6% of you who go, no, it doesn't affect me because you know what? I'll probably just use an old saved photo rather than show the watch I'm wearing today. And only 10% of you. So if we think that's probably about 1 in 6 of the people who post on Instagram would say that, yeah, Every now and then you will pick the watch you wear for the day just so that you get the Instagram thing you want. Oh, by the way, 1% of you said you often do that. I'm unsurprised that number is so low. Where do I fit? I fear I might actually be in the sometimes camp. I think I do occasionally think, oh, like I've put the same watch out a couple of times and I go to change it, knowing that I might be taking a wrist shot later. So again, I fear to say I probably fall in the sometimes camp here. Okay, so here we go. Last question I asked. How many of you think that you've made some kind of connection with another person via Instagram? It's really common. You hear people talk about all the time. I saw someone, I liked them, I slid into their DMs, we exchanged a comment, started talking, became real life friends. I was curious about how common that is today. Again, I gave people that don't use Instagram the opportunity to tell me so, and 34% of you said that. I noticed that percentage just slowly falls from 44 down to 34%. I suspect it's because people just got fatigued at answering questions they didn't feel related to them. Interestingly, about 5% of you have said you reckon you've made a real friend, and I leave that open to whatever that means to you. A real friend via Instagram, someone who you have some connection with, I'm going to say outside of watches at all. Big chunk of you, 15% of you, reckon that you've made some kind of connection that you'll call short of a friend via Instagram. Maybe you DM a little bit more often. Maybe you look for them a little bit more on social media, but you haven't gone the next step of gone beyond watches or beyond this very tight little group. Curiously, I thought that this would keep climbing. I thought that when we got to the next category of getting to kind of know people and sort of have a sense of who they were, but not go the next step and maybe exchange emails exchange DMs, I thought this would have been like 20-ish%. But as it turned out, no, we dipped away and went back down to 5%. Then, interestingly, asked how many people of you have essentially no social life on Instagram at all. You go there, you see the photos, and you leave. That there's other people out there is kind of beside the point. By far the biggest group, 41% of you in that position. And again, that brings me back to this idea of maybe Instagram knows what they're onto by focusing more and more on sponsored content, more on reels, videos, and not placing as much as importance on who our friends are, who we like, who we follow, that sort of thing. Because the evidence is seeming to stack up that it doesn't really drive our behavior anyway. So maybe it's less that Instagram is forcing a change on us and more they're just pointing out to us something we were doing anyway. So where do I fit? I'm probably in the made connections category, particularly actually with other YouTube presenters. We often I'm not great mates with any of them. I'm not in any of the secret WhatsApp groups or anything like that. But I am kind of friendly with a couple and we exchange DMs. That's about as far as it goes for me. Okay, so that's it. That's my quick and dirty on how we're using Instagram today. When I wrapped this up, there was 101 other questions that sort of leapt to mind that I was thinking of chasing down. But I was also sensing that there was a lot of people who don't use Instagram that were kind of getting frustrated at this line of questioning. So maybe one day I'll come back, but I deliberately decided to cut this one short. If I do come back to this, I'd be curious if there's anything you would like to know about Instagram, how we use it, that you'd like me to chase up on a question later. Anything else you want to tell the group, put it in the comments below. Feel free. We'll engage in a conversation down there. As I said earlier, I've been Pete McConville. This has been my channel. This is the sort of stuff we talk about here. If you're interested, like, subscribe, and we'll see more of each other moving forward. See you later.